Hi everybody, it's AJ speaking. Toyota just released a few hours ago global vehicle sales for the months of July. I often get asked why I cover companies like Toyota. As a very significant global automaker, sales trends in Toyota not only provide information about the company, but also provides a data point with regard to how the global economy is doing, or how specific markets in which Toyota operates perform. This not only imbues my macroeconomic view, my view about Toyota, but also my view about other companies that I cover in the automotive space. So with that out of the way, let's dive right in. So global sales were up 5% in July year over year to 899,000 vehicle sales. Year to date, the company is up 5.4% to 6.1 million vehicle sales. So this is after 7 months. And that's an increase of 308,000 vehicles over the first 7 months. So Toyota's increase in vehicle volume is the equivalent of the total annual sales of one of the smaller Chinese automakers, like NIO, for example. So just Toyota's year-over-year increase. This just shows you the enormous scale of Toyota. And in terms of volume, Toyota is by far the largest vehicle maker, but not by revenue. Next, we look at vehicle sales on a trailing 12 months basis. This is often more useful than a monthly view, which can be quite volatile, because the trailing 12 months gives us a better view around trend. And you can see that Toyota saw a quite significantly positive trend over recent months and currently sells at a 12-month sales rate of 10.468 million vehicles. This puts Toyota far ahead of everyone else. Please note up here, the month-on-month increase has been positive for 7 consecutive months. That's the longest consecutive positive streak after the COVID recovery. This next slide shows you the super long-term trailing 12-month sales evolution in Toyota. Please note the left part of this scale is on a yearly basis, and then from here, from the year 2020, it changes to a monthly scale, I should say interval. And what this chart shows you is that Toyota currently sells at all-time high sales levels. In other words, Toyota never sold over a 12 months period more vehicles than they did in the 12 months to July of this year. So I think the first few key observations are: number one, Toyota is growing vehicle sales. Number two, Toyota is selling at all-time high. And number three, that trend has been ongoing for several months now. But there's a lot more, so let's continue. So this chart now shows you electric vehicles sales, and this is pure electric vehicles, so BEV, battery electric vehicles. And you can see July sales were up 58% year over year, and we're up 5% months over months. The months over months is not that important because of the significant volatility, which you can also see in this chart. But the key observation here is this is a new monthly all-time high for Toyota. But at the same time, it also shows that in terms of electric vehicles, Toyota is still a significant laggard. And the fact that only 1.67% of total vehicle sales came from electric vehicles, I should say battery electric vehicles, shows that this is not a focus of Toyota. I think this is commonly misunderstood. I think people were too quick to write off Toyota, and they were pointing to the failed electric vehicle launches Toyota did and assumed Toyota simply can't make compelling electric vehicles. I think the reality is slightly different, and I think it's a combination of things. Number one, I think Toyota studied the market, and they did see that the economic rationale was simply not there at present. And what they decided to do is to develop some electric vehicles, to have a foothold in the market, but focus their energy on their still very large ICE and hybrid electric vehicle business. And based on now many quarters of available financial data from pure electric vehicle makers and from companies that sell a significant share of their volume in electric vehicles, that strategy from a financial perspective turned out to be the right one. I think a lot of listeners probably are thinking right now, oh, this is so short-sighted. Long-term, all vehicles will move to electric vehicles. I agree with that. Long-term, I think this is the base case. But here's the crux. For a large incumbent player that has large amounts of capital like Toyota, there are alternative strategies. And one such alternative strategy is to wait and see, let technology, charging infrastructure, and customers' acceptance of fully electric vehicles grow, and then as the market matures enough to make it worth their while, come in. A lot of listeners will now say, oh, you can't just jump in and expect to be a leader. If you have a very strong market position, very strong brand, a lot of capital, all the key components of electric vehicle, like the battery pack, E architecture, and electric motors, they all can be purchased, are commercially available from suppliers. And companies like Toyota have also always the option to do M&A. And financially, that is likely the rationale behind the strategy, because the option is to have years of negative cash flow from the electric vehicle business, or wait till the time is ready and then go all in. And at least thus far, it appears their strategy was the winning one. But let's move on. Next, you can see the trailing 12-month sales trend for Toyota's pure electric vehicle sales. It has now risen to a new all-time high, just as we saw in many prior quarters, to 155,500 vehicles. So this is over the last 12 months total. And that last 12 months total sales rate increased by 4.4% month over month. And that is the strongest increase in over a year. So there is some sign of strengthening sales trend, but I think it's too early to tell. And I should point out that this was obviously driven by a number of new electric vehicle launches globally. But the big picture remains unchanged, and this is what you see on this chart. I'm sorry, it's very hard to read, and I will zoom in a second. This shows you all major global electric vehicle players ranked from left to right in terms of volume. In terms of volume, BYD is the number 1, Tesla number 2, Geely number 3, VW number 4, BMW number 5, GAC, a large Chinese legacy automaker, is number 6. XPeng is one of the new Chinese pure electric vehicle makers, which is about to launch its first hybrid electric vehicle. 8 is Stellantis, which is the large auto group that includes in the US the brand Jeep, Ram, Fiat, Peugeot, Opel, Vauxhall, Lancia, Dodge, DS Automobiles, Alfa Romeo, a bunch of others. It's a huge basket of brands. 9 is NIO, Hyundai 10. So that's NIO. So this is Hyundai, the car company. This is not Hyundai Group. Kia also belongs to Hyundai Group, so arguably these two should be added together, but I showed them here separate. Xiaomi is 11, Kia 12, Mercedes comes in 13, and then FAW is one of the large Chinese legacy automakers, one of the oldest Chinese automakers, 14, Chery 15, also one of the older automakers in China, Chang'an 16, also one of the older Chinese automakers, then Toyota only ranks 17, and that's Sumin, who is in the neighborhood of Toyota, a close follower. This is pure fully electric vehicle sales. Volvo, General Motors 19, Renault, a European automaker, independent one, 20% or largely independent one, I should say. And then BAIC is a large legacy Chinese automaker. And then Vietnamese automaker VinFast 22, SAIC. This includes SAIC's own electric vehicle sales and not the JV sales. And then Ford is number 24. I stop here. I think you get the point. Toyota is basically a nobody in the electric vehicle space. But I think my point is you can see that the Germans, VW, BMW, they captured 4th and 5th spot. And anyone who studied the auto industry, I think it's absurd to assert these two companies would have superior technology to Toyota. This is just further evidence that Toyota took a conscious decision not to lean in heavily in electric vehicles. And that's why they are nowhere. And it's not a result of Toyota's inability to make an electric vehicle. In fact, Toyota was much better positioned than BMW or VW to make a compelling electric vehicles with their much closer to home access to the much more advanced Asian battery supply chain. And I'm not talking about China, which obviously is the main hub for batteries. Because Panasonic, a major battery cell supplier to Tesla, was right in front of Toyota's doorsteps. But let's move on. So if Toyota decided not to focus on electric vehicles, what was their strategy? And this is what we see in this slide. So you can see the growth of hybrid electric vehicle sales. And this is again a trailing 12 months metric to eliminate all the volatility that you see in monthly numbers. And you can see there has been quite material consistent growth. And the interesting observation is up until this most recent month, July 2025. And you can see this when you look up here at the month-on-month growth rate, and you can also see this graphically. You can see how these bars quite quickly ramped up for quite a few months without any pause really. But this now slowed significantly, and I should not say only in July, but also in June we saw already a quite significant slowdown. And the 2 months combined, so June and July, are the first 2 consecutive months where Toyota grew hybrid sales at below 1% in years, and they also mark 1 and 2 slowest month-to-month growth rate at just 0.37% and 0.42%. So this clearly shows us there has been now a quite substantial slowdown, but there is more to this. Now we look at the same metrics, so trailing 12 months, for internal combustion engine vehicle sales. And you can see kind of the opposite. So these sales had been decreasing quite rapidly, quite consistently for a long time. But now for the first time in well over a year, as you can see, in July for the first time we saw actually a sequential growth. So ICE sales were up 0.15% to just over 5.5 million, while they dropped below 5.5 million in June on a trailing 12-month basis. And the last time we saw a sequential increase from 1 month to the next on a trailing 12-month basis, we have to go back all the way to May 2023. And when you also just zoom out a bit and look at this trend, you can see ICE sales decreased. Then the decrease accelerated quite consistently or kept its deceleration rate or shrinkage rate. And then we saw some significant slowdown, almost coming to a halt and now slightly reversed. So you can clearly see something changed compared to the trend we saw in the many prior months. So this next chart shows you kind of the same thing, but now shows you all the different types of powertrains. So there's ICE, HEV is hybrid electric vehicles, PHEV is plug-in hybrid electric vehicle, CEVs are fuel cell electric vehicles, BEVs, battery electric vehicles, and MHEVs, mild hybrid electric vehicles. But you can immediately see that except for ICE and hybrid electric vehicles, all the rest does not really move the needle in Toyota's case. And this is not by accident. Clearly Toyota's strategy was to focus on hybrid electric vehicles because this also allowed them to learn about battery handling, supply chain, etc. Because a hybrid electric vehicle has all the parts a fully electric vehicle has. And I think this was part of the overall strategy. They were, of course I'm simplifying here. What they probably did is they realized, okay, we ran the numbers, electric vehicles are not profitable. Tesla only can do it because they have a killer product, the Model Y and the Model 3. Both of these vehicles sell at extremely high volume, and only thanks to this huge success they can make money. We are not sure we can also deliver a vehicle like that, and therefore if we can't replicate Tesla's sales success with a very small number of vehicles, we are stand to lose money. So let's not do that. Let's focus on hybrid electric vehicles where we have an edge, but learn about electric powertrains as we sell more and more hybrid electric vehicles. So anyway, so I think this was the strategy. Now in retrospect, we can clearly say this was the right call. And when we look at this analysis real quick, so this shows you pure electric vehicle sellers plus Ford's pure electric vehicle segment. You can see here the cash flow, and so this cumulative cash flow since inception. In Ford's electric vehicle segment's case, since a disclosure is available, and you can see that all of these electric vehicle makers, they are either bankrupt or still super cash flow negative, with the single exception that is Tesla. Of course, the critics amongst you right now would think, oh, AJ, this is not fair, you're comparing mostly smaller companies, but please note, there's also Ford's electric vehicle segment. Ford is a large automaker, but they are still significantly cash flow negative. But we can go a step further. So now you're looking at an excerpt from one of my research reports on Xiaomi. The following argument is something what I would describe as a more advanced argument. So Xiaomi is a large consumer electronics company that launched into the electric vehicle space. And this company just started selling its very first electric vehicle from April 2024. So this is a very late comer to the electric vehicle market. This company, from a standing start, had huge success. So the Xiaomi example shows us, and Xiaomi, again, is not an automaker. It is a consumer electronics company, can make a first product that beats most other products on the market, and even products that had several product generations under their belt. So this case study, looking at Xiaomi, tells us it's not required to dabble in electric vehicles for years to make a compelling product. It's not necessary to sell in the market. This is what we can learn from Xiaomi. So Toyota's strategy was a smart one. The big picture is that Toyota basically lets other companies clear the path, do all the R&D, especially the supply chain, do all the R&D around fast charging, building infrastructure, etc., get the customers acquainted to electric vehicles, and then come in when the market is ripe. So in a nutshell, this cash flow analysis of electric vehicle makers plus Xiaomi's enormous success confirmed that Toyota was right. And I'd like you to remember that. The numbers are irrefutable. So anyone you hear who is smearing Toyota for, oh, they can't build electric vehicles, people who say that do not know what they're talking about. So that's the end of my quick Toyota global sales update. Just to summarize, point one, Toyota is growing strongly. Sales is selling at all-time highs. There has been now a significant slowdown of their hybrid electric vehicle sales growth. Perhaps they have found a temporary equilibrium. Electric vehicles sales also at all-time high, but still at an almost non-needle moving scale. So this will be very interesting to watch going forward. I hope this was interesting. Thank you very much for listening. See you in the next one. Bye.